Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. As certain as the passing of the seasons and the sun and moon rising in the sky is the fact that Tottenham will lose before an international break. Spurs might have put in 3 impressive performances, starting the Premier League season with 5 goals and 2 clean sheets, including a win at the Etihad Stadium. But just whisper in someone's ear that it's time for international football, and the North London club will crumble. Tottenham have now lost their past 7 Premier League games on the match day before an international break. It never used to be that way. They had gone unbeaten in the previous 13. Before that, winning 10 of those, but something shifted a couple of years ago. Perhaps it's just coincidence, perhaps players are mindful of getting injured, or perhaps they just lack the ability to focus on the present. Either way, this was a dismal affair, reminiscent of much of what was served up in the Premier League last season with Spurs, as open to counter-attacks as they were back then, despite Thomas Frank's new defensive structure. And that's what annoyed him even more than the lack of creativity. We clearly didn't perform well today. We played against a very good Bournemouth team that we know can make it difficult for any team in the league, Frank told Football.London. They played to their strengths. They did that very well, and we didn't handle it well. We knew exactly what they came with, and we trained for it. We just didn't handle it well enough in terms of the balls in behind, the second balls, duels in the middle of the park. That's the defensive side, and on the offensive side, we struggled to find good enough solutions to get through phase 1 and 2, so we could get up there and put a bit of pressure on them. We only did that in the last 15, where we put on good pressure, and could have equalised. I think over the game it was fair that Bournemouth won. Tottenham were missing that bit of magic, and the man who can provide that was only able to step onto the pitch to say hello to the fans inside his new home. Javi Simons, Spurs' new £52 million signing, who put pen to paper on a 5-year contract with an option for another 2, came out onto the turf 5 minutes before the supporters had been told, catching out a few who hadn't reached their seats yet. He waved and applauded all the stands, and showed off his phone goal celebration, which came about because he was always ringing his brother when he first moved to PSG, and they decided on it while playing FIFA together and saw a similar celebration. Spurs could have done with Xavi being signed before the Friday deadline, and having magically been awarded his work permit in record time. For everything that the 22-year-old Dutchman brings to the table was needed against the Cherries. Sometimes you need a player that can do something, clicks his fingers, a little bit out of nothing, go past the player, produce a cross, a shot, a pass, with that extra quality that you need on the day, and that's what I think he can bring, said Frank of his new signing. Xavi's arrival certainly brought a buzz inside Hotspur way, on the day he was being signed, with players excited about the transfer, and some asking staff whether it was done yet at points around training. For the Barcelona product is a statement signing, and he's got all the elements to become a star in this Tottenham side. The club shop on Saturday had so many fans looking to get number 7 shirts with his name on it that the wait for printing reached more than an hour at one point. The youngster watched the game from a box in the West Stand, complete with a big entourage which will no doubt slim down as he settles in. He was taken down inside the stadium with about 10 minutes to go of the match. The problem with Sunday's defeat is that it showed how Spurs can be without creativity, and with the running and pressing game below what was required. They had 61.4% of the possession, but an XG of just 0.17 compared to Bournemouth's 1.45. In simpler terms, the visitors had 20 shots to Tottenham's 5, in their own backyard. So what happens if Xavi misses matches against teams that are tougher to break down and double up on the wide men? Spurs' original plan was to sign Morgan Gibbs-White to compete with and play alongside James Maddison, only for the latter to suffer that ACL injury and ruled out for much of the campaign. So it is risky to go into a busy campaign with just Xavi as a true number 10, although he can also play down the left. Tottenham Hotspur lost 1-0 to Bournemouth in Thomas Frank's first Premier League defeat at the club on Saturday afternoon, and here are our Spurs player ratings. Spurs fans got a glimpse of new signing Javi Simons ahead of kickoff as he was unveiled on the pitch following his £52 million move from RB Leipzig on a 5-year contract with an option for another 2. The 22-year-old Dutchman signed after the deadline to register for the game against the Cherries and is awaiting his work permit. Frank named an unchanged team from the one that beat Manchester City 2-0 at the Etihad Stadium the previous weekend. Dominic Solanke missed out on the squad though, with his ankle injury from the summer still giving him discomfort, meaning Manus Solomon was back on the bench for the first time in 2 years. Destiny Udogie was also back on the bench after his return from injury, with Jed Spence remaining at left-back after earning himself his first England call-up. Bournemouth struck early on when Evanilson scored 4 minutes in. He was given too much space in the box, and his shot deflected off the sliding Cristian Romano and over Guglielmo Vicario's dive with Spence slow to get out and playing him onside. The Cherries could have scored more goals with Vicario making a string of saves in both halves to keep the home side in the game, until a later flurry from Tottenham brought plenty of huffing and puffing, but no equaliser. Guglielmo Vicario couldn't do much about Evanilson's deflected early finish, but did push away Brooks' clever free kick not too long after. Did well to get a palm to Semenyo's half volley just after the break. Made another save at the feet of Evanilson, before denying Brooks a little while after. 8 Pedro Porro had a torrid time with Semenyo down his flank. Sent in a couple of half-decent balls, one which led to a Bergvall chance, but this was not his day. Was hooked with 20 minutes to go. 4 Cristian Romero unfortunate to deflect Evanilson's shot into the goal, although he did let the Brazilian peel away from him too easily. Pushed up the pitch as the game wore on, often relying on his younger centre-back partner to deal with what came. 6 Mickey van der Ven picked up an early caution, made a great block from Tavernier midway through the first half and made a number more in the second half. He and Vicario are Spurs' best players by a distance. He was constantly getting in the tackles and then taking the ball up the pitch. 8 Jed Spence fresh from his first England call-up, he was slow to get out and played Evanilson onside for his early goal, switched to the right later on and put in a great cross that Tell volleyed wide. 6 Rodrigo Bentancur gave everything and made some good interceptions, but he's not a creative player. 6 Joao Palhinha put in a couple of challenges, but Bournemouth just kept sweeping through. 5 Mohamed Kudus flattered to deceive, plenty of beating one man but then giving the ball away soon after in his play. Should have got a few more fouls than he did. Put in some poor crosses as well after getting into good positions. 5 Pape Matar Sarr never really found the rhythm of the game or where his position needed him to be. 5 Brennan Johnson started the game brightly but seemed to lose his confidence with a string of poor decisions, and the crowd let him know it. After goals in both the previous games, the fans cheered his substitution and he had to walk around the pitch in front of them. 4 Richarlison held up the ball well in the final exchanges, but this was nowhere near the level of performance he'd put in previously this season. 5 Lucas Bergvall sent a shot at the goalkeeper and brought some energy to the centre of the pitch, making one good late run. 6 Wilson Odobert half-volleyed over from inside the Bournemouth box and made one good tracking run to stop Semenyo getting in on goal. Still looks lightweight at times and doesn't make the most of his ability. 5 replaced Porro for the final 15 minutes and sent a last-gasp header across the face of goal. 5 Mathys Tell brought a little burst of late energy to the game in the final stages and sent an acrobatic volley just wide of the left-hand post. A. Thomas Frank is holding his press conference following Tottenham's 1-0 home defeat against Bournemouth on Saturday afternoon in the Premier League. Frank named an unchanged team from the one that won 2-0 at Manchester City the previous weekend. Dominic Solanke did miss out on the squad though, with his ankle injury still giving him discomfort, meaning Manus Solomon was back on the bench for the first time in 2 years. Destiny Udogie was also among the substitutes after his return from injury, with Jed Spence remaining at left-back after earning himself his first England call-up. Bournemouth struck early on when Evanilson scored 4 minutes in. He was given too much space in the box, and his shot deflected off the sliding Cristian Romero and over Guglielmo Vicario's dive with Spence slow to get out and play.